Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time I'm going to be showing you a book that I read when I was about 10 years old, and this book absolutely scared me to the bone. It gave me nightmares. I'd go to bed and I couldn't go to sleep because I was thinking about what I'd read in this particular book. Now the book's aimed at children, so it's absolutely astonishing that it even got published, but that's the book we're going to be having a look at today, and I think you're going to love it. You may even want to rush out and buy your own copy. So without further ado, sit back, relax if you can, and let's get to it. Okay then, so here it is, Mysteries of the Unknown, published by Usborne in the UK in 1977. And this particular edition was a reprint that I've got, and this is why I think I have mine, because this is my original copy. This was reprinted in 1979, and that's the date of this one, and that's when I was sort of 9-10 years old, so that's why I think this is the age I was when I first read it. And this is like a compilation of 3 books. You've got the Monsters book, the Ghosts book, and the UFOs book, and those were all sort of published separately under the Worlds of the Unknown sort of series banner, and this is the omnibus of all 3. So Usborne hadn't been around that long compared to some of the other children's publishers at this time, but I first discovered them with these 2 books, which was the Spy's Guidebook and the Detective's Handbook. Now I'm going to do a little series on these books in the future because they are fantastic, and they very much sowed the seeds for me having a few more Usborne books as I was sort of growing up. Absolutely fantastic and filled with detail. But this was something else, because this was unexplained and unknown. It was always a series that was super fascinating to me, particularly as a youngster. And you have to sort of remember the era that we're talking about when these books were published. I mean, there was, I don't know, there was stuff like the Sasquatches, there was things on UFOs, Close Encounters movies, all sorts really going on. And it was always sort of a fascinating genre for me, really, particularly as a kid. You're always sort of interested in the unexplained, aren't you? So split into the 3 books here, part 1 Monsters, part 2 Ghosts, and part 3 UFOs. And it was always the Ghosts one that stood out in my mind as the book that gave me the most nightmares. Now I am pleased to see, as I said, this is my original one, and I am pleased to see for some reason I didn't put my name in. I used to do that quite a bit in some of these books, so that was good. And we are here into the first book, which is on monsters, and I suppose the first sort of thing you realise is just the incredible artwork. It really is quite something, and really bold, bright, colourful illustrations. And this Monsters one was probably my least favourite of the 3. I don't remember having many memories or nightmares, shall I say, about this, but I do remember some of the pictures, like that guy with the one eye there, the one-eyed giant, Minotaur and Medusa. And I'm sure as we work our way through this, you'll get waves of nostalgia if you ever own this book as well. Pictures like that I remember very vividly. And that, the knight with all the spikes on his armour, tackling that, I do remember that picture. See, I'd forgotten all about that until looking through it now. And this is the first sort of time I've gone through it in many, many years. I mean, we're talking probably 20 years. As I said, I've had this one since I was a kid. I've never got rid of it because it's just so good. Look at that artwork. That is fantastic, isn't it? That really is quite something. And the thing that I liked about these Usborne books was that they were so full of detail that you just pore over every little paragraph and little insert. You just would read these books literally cover to cover. I remember that picture as well. Really, really distinctive. It just sort of comes back to you. The giant squid, the riddle of the kraken. Here we are, the abominable snowman, and of course the Sasquatch. There was that footage that was supposed to be of a Sasquatch, but I'm sure it's probably just a bloke in a suit. But I remember the footprint chart here as well, with the different footprints. Absolutely incredible. And I definitely remember these bits about sort of underwater monsters like Loch Ness, and I'm sure that was the first time I ever saw that picture of what is purported to be Nessie's head and neck. Investigations of Loch Ness. And here we are, man-made monsters. There's a few here. King Kong, Jules, Frankenstein, Godzilla, or How to Make Your Own Creature from the Black Lagoon. And that one's, that's the giant squid from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, a great Disney movie. And then we've got a little sort of dictionary here at the end of all the different sorts of monsters. And as is customary with Usborne books, you do have a quiz as well. So there's a monster quiz, and there's the answers that are upside down, and you had to look in a mirror. They were upside down, and you had to put this page against a mirror to get the correct answers. Now, ghosts. This was the one. This is probably the book. Well, it is. This is the book that scared me by far the most. And I thought it would be quite fun. I did have a quick look online, and I found a few sort of reviews on like Goodreads, and I'll read you a couple here just to sort of set the scene. So one person says, a highly recommended book for the ages, for all ages. It was said that many children had nightmares of the book that attest to the greatness of this series. Remember this book from back in the day when I was a kid in the late 70s and early 80s. So great to have it all in the one edition. A lifelong fascination with all things unknown and supernatural. One thing I would say is that this is actually quite scary and gruesome for a children's book. The artwork is great, but can be bloody and quite graphic, which is all the better really, but might give young or sensitive children a nightmare or two. Absolutely brilliant though. Well, that's exactly what happened to me. This is interesting. So as a kid, a couple of my mates had this book, and I never got around to getting a copy myself. I bought the paperback version cheap, and it was good to see it again, bringing back a few daft memories of passing it around the playground. Some of the ghost images are actually quite scary. The classic nun in front of the altar is in this one. That is the one that we'll see in a minute. That gave me the nightmares. I remember watching Arthur C. Clarke's TV series around the same time as I first read this book, and a year or two later I got Clarke's books for my birthday. It was a great way to pique my interest in the supernatural. Now, so very, very similar to me, I found this book, these sorts of subjects have always interested me throughout my life. But there is a page of photos in here, which is really quite something, which we'll get to in just a moment. So I remember this as well, and I'd forgotten all about it. So that skull picture there, it says, ghosts are often claimed to be hallucinations. Certainly people can be tricked into seeing things that do not exist. Stare at the cross in the center of the skull while you count slowly to 120. Then look at a plain wall. You should see a phantom skull. I remember doing that. Did you remember doing it? I remember doing that, definitely. And once again, absolutely fantastic artwork throughout this book. So here we are. What is a ghost? Different sorts of ghosts. Poltergeists. The duties of a ghost. Ghosts of long ago. Strange customs. This is it, where ghosts gather. There we are on battlefields in the graveyard, near a hanging, the site of the Hindenburg. Wow. Oh, I remember that. Sort of the ghostly captain on the submarine. Remember that picture pretty good. And look at that Captain Kidd's ghost. Look at that. Once again, the wolf with the one eye. This was a pretty scary book for youngsters, wasn't it? The Haunted House. I wonder if it mentions Borley Rectory. I'm sure this would have been the book that I first heard about Borley Rectory in. I'm sure of that. I remember this map. The village with a dozen ghosts. Oh, so good, isn't it? Ghosts around the world. Ghost hunting. So this is catching your own ghosts. You can be a professional ghost hunter. And also animal investigations, animal investigators, how they say animals can sort of detect spirits better than humans can. Then explaining ghost stories, why phenomenon are cited and then they're explained through science. Fakes, fake ghost pictures. There's a few pictures there, but they're all purported to be fakes. Oh, this is the page, guys. This is the page. So it says, yeah, all three of these pictures are considered by experts to be genuine. So you got the sort of the figure on the staircase, not particularly special, that one. The guy sat in the back of like the car there, and I looked at this one long and hard when I was young, and you could sort of see he had very bushy eyebrows, and he had sort of like a headscarf on around his neck. I'm not so sure about that one, but that one, I always thought it was a monk in front of an altar rather than a nun. I thought it was a monk, but look at that. That really is something, and that would be so, I mean, how would you fake that, you know, even back then? I mean, it really is an interesting one, taken in the early 1960s, it says, by a vicar of a church in England. He said at the time he saw nothing that was out of the ordinary, but his developed film showed the tall phantom monk seen here. It appears to be about 3 meters tall. The film was carefully checked by photographic experts, but showed no signs of tampering. Well, there you go. That was it, and I just can vividly remember that picture absolutely terrifying me as a kid. Wow. And seeing it after all these years, it's quite something. Then we've got Dictionary of Ghost Lore, sort of A to Z of your ghosts, and then the creepy quiz at the end, as they did on the first one. And then we're into the final book, which is on UFOs. So of course around this time we had Close Encounters, didn't we? That was pretty big. I remember this. So you've got the two UFOs side by side, and I think what you had to do is stare at the picture, and as you moved the book away, one of the UFOs would disappear. And I remember doing it, and it was sort of pointing out your brain's blind spot. So here we are looking at different unidentified flying objects, and I suppose they were all the rage back in the late 70s. I'm sure this is where I first heard of Easter Island. Would have been in this book. And then famous sightings of the Washington one, that was in the early 1950s. And a little breakout on Project Blue Book, and absolutely stacked with information. It really is quite comprehensive for a book that was basically aimed at children. But as you can see, it's far, far more than that. Just fantastic. Encounters with UFOs in space. I remember that. The circular, I think that was a test plane, a test vehicle, that one. UFOs on the screen. So we got the, that's from the War of the Worlds, the 50s movie, isn't it, that one? And that's the Klingon bird of prey, and that's the tripod from the War of the Worlds. Hunting and fake, so UFO hunters, and these is how they do fake photographs. And mistaken identity, where UFOs are not really UFOs. There was a simple explanation all the time. Life in outer space. Aliens, of course, as I said, you know, the end of Close Encounters. Who can forget it? Starflight. Man's exploration of space. Then we got the amazing world of UFOs. Just, you know, UFO facts. You got your dictionary of ufology, and of course further reading. So no quiz, but this is really incredible. Looking at the further reading, and it's got recommended books even by other publishers. In fact, there's a Pan and a Puffin recommended there, plus information. Look, BUFOR, the British UFO Club, I believe. Incredible, eh? So there we are. Wow, wee. So I'd be interested to know if you had this book when you were growing up. What did you think of it? Did you have nightmares like I did? If you had this one and you're looking to get one today, I did do a little bit of cursory groundwork on eBay to see how much these were going for, and you'd be pleased to hear it's not a lot. So I suspect that they had really great sales, and I found them for between £7 and £10 on eBay, a little dearer on Amazon, sort of like £15 upwards. I did see one which was like $50. It did get distributed in America and Australia and New Zealand, so you should be able to find copies locally if you look hard enough. But I think it's an absolutely fantastic book, vivid memories, and I still think it looks terrific today. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed looking through the Mysteries of the Unknown. Absolutely fantastic and filled with nostalgia for me. If you have enjoyed it, do please give the video a thumbs up, and do please hit that subscribe button for regular book and vintage paperback content. And I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.